Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. David Schwartz, who is of course Ripple's CTO and co-creator of the XRP ledger, somewhat surprisingly revived a nearly 2-year-old Twitter thread seemingly out of nowhere, at least as far as I can tell. I mean, I'm sure something caused him to come across this. Maybe somebody hit a like on a particular comment and he started going through and came across something that he decided he actually wanted to comment on. And he ended up sharing some insights, including what XRP actually stands for. Where did the letters XRP come from? And I was thinking about this, and I was like, I know what the answer is, but I already knew, but I can't recall ever speaking about this on the channel. Maybe I have, but I may never have, and I thought it was an interesting topic, and it was really everything, and a couple of splinters of this thread. Very interesting stuff, so I was like, okay, Moon Lambo going to share this with the people. But before we go any further, if you would please ever so delicately tap that like button, I would definitely appreciate the support. And also, I recommend that you treat yourself, girl, by subscribing to the Moon Lambo channel, which is the best channel on all of the YouTubes. So where did this all stem from? Well, let's start here. I think this is a good starting point. I want to make you guys aware of this anyway, because I had forgotten about this particular thread, which started on January 7th of last year. And I was just surprised the way that whoever's running the social media, whoever they allowed, Kraken the Exchange allowed to run this, said some not so professional things having to do with the XRP ledger. And it all started with this, Ethereum Classic. Oh yes, Ethereum Classic. Well, if you thought that Ethereum Classic suffering 51 attacks first happened a couple weeks ago, and it did within the last couple weeks or so, it wasn't the first time. Here's from January 7th, 2019, Kraken Exchange. Ethereum Classic funding has been disabled due to the ongoing 51% attack on the network. Funding will be resumed when the network's health has stabilized. And then Eric Dedoon responded, can you help the community understand the logic in continuing to list a digital asset that, 1, has lost a significant portion of its developers, and 2, experienced a successful 51% attack? Wouldn't delisting it entirely be more logical? Thanks in advance for the comments. And of course, Eric Dedoon, a member of the XRP community here. But Kraken Exchange, the official exchange account, you can see they got the little check next to them. They got 405,000 followers. Responded with the following. The exchange's purpose is liquidity and price discovery. Who benefits from it being delisted? To which Eric responded, thank you for replying. With regards to who benefits from it being delisted, I would argue that your customers benefit. I can't imagine your customers are benefiting from being exposed to a digital asset being 51% attacked while simultaneously being unable to trade/sell it. And Kraken responded, obviously emotionally getting to the point where they're not too thrilled here with what Eric is having to say. And then, so he wrote, oh shoot, did I just lose my spot? For certain. Oh yeah, our clients benefit from having fewer options, ? Trading for ETC is still open. Nobody is forcing anyone to buy or sell. If people don't want the exposure, they should sell. It's consenting adults here. And Eric responded, I appreciate the replies, and I'm not here to attack you. I'm of the opinion that exchanges should display more responsibility in delisting/restricting digital assets that have been involved in 51% attacks or similarly problematic scenarios. I don't think that's a controversial opinion. And this is where it gets interesting, because it jumps into XRP. Mind you, Eric Dedoon, fine, member of the XRP community, had said nothing to this point about XRP, so Kraken went digging into this individual's Twitter account and found out that this is somebody that's pro-XRP and wrote the following. Involved in 51% attacks? ? You're talking about like 90% of coins. How about losing your first 32,570 blocks? Would you say that's a problematic scenario? Ethereum Classic is down less from the all-time high than many other coins. The market doesn't seem to agree with your sentiment. Oh, Kraken, what a wicked burn, bringing up the lost blocks of the XRP ledger. 32,570 blocks just lost. Oh my god. And equating that to a 51% attack. Well, first of all, to be clear, that's apples and oranges, because XRP cannot be 51% attacked. There is no such thing. Whereas, proof of work, it sets up situation generally where, like with Bitcoin, for example, it's probabilistic, in which case there can be chain reorganizations where basically you're rolling back time and you can create a new false version of history. That doesn't sound good. Whereas with the XRP ledger, it is not probabilistic, it is deterministic, meaning once a ledger closes, that's that. The block is done. You cannot roll back time. The worst you could do if you attack the XRP ledger is halt it. And even that would be temporary because it's going to get kind of costly to do that. Because if you're talking about DDoS attacks in particular, every single transaction costs a lot. And the XRP ledger is pretty fast, so you're going to need a lot of transactions. So good luck there, and what are you actually going to solve if you do that? So what about the 32,570 blocks? Well, okay, true enough that there was a bug. And here's the thing that they either didn't know or are leaving out. So either they're ignorant or they're misleading the people that were covering this. And so when this happened, there was a bug that was discovered during beta testing. This is before XRP was out in the public. It was not being traded on exchanges. It was worth literally $0. It did not have a price associated with it. It was just this little test thing, and there was a bug. And then they, by the way, throughout the course of the testing, David Schwartz has talked about this. They reset the ledger a number of times and would go back to black. Get back to where there were 0 blocks that had been completed. And so when they were talking about, okay, well, like, should we reset this thing? They're like, maybe we'll do it in the future. They didn't know it was going to be the final version. And so they fixed the problem and then they proceeded. And so then from that point onward, after the 32,570, it was all recorded properly, right? And so it materially doesn't matter because whether they had reset it to 0 and then move forward with the functional software, which is what we have today, or they didn't reset that number and acknowledged, hey, this is officially, as a result, this is pragmatically, like, this is the Genesis block, it materially makes no difference. So it's disingenuous to equate that to a 51% attack. So anyway, this David Schwartz did not really like so much. He retweeted that from David Schwartz. And to be clear, the one that he retweeted is Ripple is only one example of a blockchain which has had problems. Did I get down to that one? I'm sorry, maybe I didn't get down to it yet. I apologize if I went. Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to read the whole thread, but here's what Kraken ultimately wrote. Ripple is only one example of a blockchain which has had problems. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Zcash, you name it, have all had their share of problems. This is what markets are for. People disagree and can invest accordingly. Deplatforming is not the answer. And again, it's disingenuous because you're talking about Ethereum Classic in production model, out in the world, getting attacked successfully, 51% attacks, versus XRP Ledger, which had a bug before it was on the market, was corrected, and has been performing successfully since. Totally disingenuous. Now, so I wanted to cover that. David Schwartz retweeted that, and he had a different beef with it, and it's totally legit too. This is from January 8th, 2019. We'll get to the recent stuff soon, but you guys, you're going to want to hear all this, especially in proper context. David Schwartz wrote, "It's irresponsible when exchanges misrepresent digital assets in this way. Ripple is a private company, different from XRP or the XRP ledger. They're not interchangeable, and there's no disputing that." And then somebody named the Wolf of Bitcoins responded, "Ripple created XRP." A guy named Shane responded, "Some bloke you don't know invented Bitcoin, Vitalik, Ethereum, Charlie Lee, Litecoin, what's your point?" To which the Wolf of Bitcoins responded, and again, this is January 9th, 2019, and we're about to jump into modern times, but January 9th, 2019. "My point is Ripple are pretending they had nothing to do with the creation of XRP, which is absolute lies. Why are they trying to distance themselves from the token?" And David Schwartz, seemingly out of nowhere, responded to that 22 hours ago. Just 22 hours ago, which is interesting. So I'm like, that's why I'm like, well, how did this enter, like your peripheral here? Like, how did this come? I don't know. I mean, it must have popped up in his thread or something. But yeah, this is at this point. I mean, mind you, we're in September of 2020. In January, it will have been 2 full years. But here, he's responding. And I'm glad. Like, this is interesting though. But here's what he wrote. David Schwartz wrote, "The company didn't exist when XRP was created. We didn't start soliciting investment in the company until we could demonstrate the working ledger. We say that for one reason and one reason only. Because it's true. Bam, mic drop. Exactly. And so these people that want to pretend that it's otherwise, that Ripple functionally created XRP, it's just not true. It's either a lie or they're ignorant. Because if they're saying something they believe is true but isn't true, that's not what a lie is. That's just being incorrect. A lie requires intentional deceit, and so either way, it's bad. But it's just not in line with reality, obviously. And then David Schwartz wrote, I know it sounds ridiculous today, and this gets really interesting, but investors at that time were concerned that creating any kind of cryptocurrency was fundamentally illegal and insisted that be complete before they were willing to form a company. Think about that. So if you were going to move forward as a legitimate company in the United States, the sentiment at the time was that you could not be a company that was that created a cryptocurrency. So what's the workaround? What did you have to do if you wanted to be a company in the United States and perhaps successfully seek out venture capitalists and get funding? If you wanted to do that, well, you couldn't create the cryptocurrency. You could have cryptocurrency, and even that was a little iffy. Like they've talked about that. Like even Bob Way, former Ripple employees, talked about that in the past. About how he like I think half jokingly he was like the 10th Ripple employee ever. He's like, well, on any given day we didn't know if the FBI was going to come breaking down our doors, right? And so it's just like the unknown situation back then in terms of like regulatory clarity. As bad as it is today, it was way more unknown back then. And so David Schwartz then wrote, it is misleading to say Ripple had nothing to do with the creation of XRP. The people who created XRP are pretty much the same as the people who created Ripple, and they created Ripple originally to, among other things, distribute XRP. And then Nash Scorsese responded, I always thought that Ryan, in 2012, founded the OpenCoin Corporation. And I guess he's talking about Ryan Fugger, right? I'm assuming that's who he's talking about. Anyway, then came the RTXP and XRP after. Ripple Labs wasn't formed until 2013. That would indeed mean the company didn't exist when XRP was created. Don't know how accurate I am, though. And David Schwartz has taught, and I'll show you this in a second, too, but David Schwartz, he said that XRP, they started developing it, I think it was like June of 2012, I think that's right. I'll show you in a second, but David Schwartz responded to that as well. Ryan built the original Ripple Pay or Ripple Classic system. It predates blockchain. We started OpenCoin in 2012 and later renamed to Ripple. And this gets interesting too. Check this out. XNS was renamed to XRP in late 2012. But that was also just a name change. All this info is public in the GitHub repo. Code changes went live almost immediately, always within a week, back then because we're developing so fast. And so, if anybody knows the answer to this, I would love to hear from you. I should just ask David Schwartz, but I probably won't get a response because I'm sure his Twitter feed's always blowing up. But what does XNS stand for? I don't think I've ever seen any indication of what XNS stood for anyway. But it was ultimately renamed to XRP. And so somebody named Aspect wrote, I'm curious, why did you choose the name XRP? Is it an acronym for something? And this is where David Schwartz responded, explaining, we liked the name Ripple so much that we called everything Ripple for a while. XRP was originally X because it's a currency code not issued by a country, followed by RP for Ripple or Ripples. So there you go, RP. So the RP does stand for Ripples. And so that's why it's so funny. And it's like back in the day, this is a fun little, not so well-known fact, but back in the early day when Ripple was small, they may have only had a dozen or so employees. It's like they were having trouble remembering each other's names, so they wore name tags. But that didn't really help so much because all of the name tags just said Ripple, because they called not just everything Ripple, they called everyone Ripple. Everything was Ripple. Your Ripple, your Ripple, your Ripple. And eventually, thankfully, they dropped that. And they decided that there was no Ripple ledger. There was no Ripple blockchain. There was Ripple the company, and then XRP the ledger, and XRP the decentralized cryptocurrency, and then everybody else went back to using their own human names that they were born with, and things got much easier at that point. That's a true story. You can believe that. And so that's where it goes. And so the other, and another thing that's interesting too. So you can think about, so as far as the country code issue, that is a real thing. So BTC is Bitcoin, but there are all sorts of entities that refuse to accept that. And I can't remember the code because it's not commonly used in the world of crypto, but it starts with X. So, there's people out there listening that know this, I'm sure, and so you're probably screaming what it is right now. I don't know if it's XBT or XBC or XBT. I can't remember. I'd have to Google it, but yeah, there are some entities out there that refuse to call Bitcoin BTC because you're supposed to use an X. Apparently, if it's if it's not a currency that's issued by a country. And so then David Schwartz wrote this as well. We change the names of things several times, often to try to reduce confusion or improve clarity. The net effect, though, is that if you look back at something from early days, it can take some effort today to figure out what that would have meant at the time. Exactly, and so that's why, and I've seen videos too of Chris Larson, co-founder of Ripple, call XRP ripples. Like, I've seen videos of that. So it was a real thing back then, and thankfully as things developed over time, like, yeah, this is kind of confusing. Let's not do that anymore, which is perfectly reasonable. And then there was this thread here. Here we go. As far as when XRP was created, here we go. I worked with Arthur Roberto and Jed McCaleb starting in late 2011. Okay. We co-created the XRP ledger. The first code commit November 2011, so that's what it was. Okay, here's Arthur's code that created the 100 billion XRP, then called XNS, on June 2nd, 2012, the birth date of XRP. Okay, so there you go. So technically, he's considering it to be June 2nd, 2012, even though it was still just kind of like in beta then. He goes on to talk about that. But interesting stuff. How about that? If anybody knows what XNS stands for, like, please let me know. I'd love to hear that information. Maybe somebody out there is aware, but I actually tried Googling it a long time ago. I didn't try today, but some time ago, and it was not fruitful. I was not able to discover what it was. Maybe I should ask Jeeves. Do you think Jeeves might know? I might go ask Jeeves after this video. All right, that's it for this one. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!